Hello there, AWF. This is reading 822 for my client AWF. Okay, AWF, you asked me a series of questions, brilliant questions, and I'm really happy with the specificity, if you like, of those questions. It's fantastic, and I'm hoping some of the answers for that will come out for you in here. We'll focus mainly here, but I'll start here as I normally do. This is strafe or blackthorn, and people who have seen my readings, had a few readings, will know that this is not my most favourite stave. This is in the position that themes your whole reading, and strafe or blackthorn is very much about sadness, emptiness, loneliness. And whilst I think in your email you tried to be quite upbeat and positive, I kind of sense very much that there's an undercurrent underneath that of worry, of concern, of real doubt about the future, and not just from a practical sense but emotionally. And I kind of keep getting the sense that you're putting on the brave smile, but underneath it's really quite sad. So let's see what else is happening in this reading for you. These three staves here are about the last year or so, and they are themed with this one, which is heather. I'm quite pleased to see that there. That's really good. Heather is about love, it's about partnership, it's about sharing, caring, it's about being together, but it's also a stave that talks very much about appreciation for self, and a connection, if you like, with doing what you want to do because it feeds your soul and your heart, and your very core. And for you, what I sense here very much is that the last 6 months in particular, but the last year and a little bit longer, has been very much about trying to bring balance to your family, trying to be the linchpin of stability and harmony, if you like. And sometimes your enthusiasm and your passion for life and for the things that you want can be misconstrued by the people as being a little bit exuberant and over the top. And you have such passion for life and such dedication to your family, and that's lovely to see. This one here is Ruis or elder, and it's interesting that that is there. This is a little bit about regret, and I guess why I see that kind of start again. Sometimes messages don't come through to me in logical order, so I apologise. In relation to this one here, Ruis or elder is a little bit about regret, and it's talking about sometimes you feel a great deal of sadness about, and you blame yourself, if you like, for when things don't always go according to plan. So in terms of your relationship, yeah, it's a little bit rocky, and as are the finances and so on, but you are often asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Why did this happen to me? What did I do to make this happen? And this comes through with elder or fian as well. So what I keep seeing in the past for you, I guess, is a real blow to your self-confidence and your self-esteem, and so there's a bit of a hole that's opening up in your life now. And for you, what's really central to your life and really important is that family, is that sense of belonging within the family unit and having a safe, stable, secure home for you all. And the home is not just necessarily the bricks and mortar, but it's, you know, what that kind of represents, that stability, that security, that sharing, that caring, but there seems to be a bit of a massive hole in that for you. So that's what you want, but that's not necessarily what's occurred for you. But I kind of see two levels here. On the surface, everybody out in the community, I guess, would think that everything's fairly hunky-dory, but underneath, you know, it's a bit like that saying, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. So for you, there's kind of two levels, that face that you put out towards the community, but underneath, you know, a great sense of loss and sadness. This one's sitting in the middle as ivy or gort, and this is sitting in the position that kind of themes where you are right now. And ivy is very much about survival. Ivy's fantastic in that it's very strong, incredibly resourceful, as I can see that you are through the Ogham fuse. Really resourceful, really passionate, and when you get an idea in your head, you absolutely go for it. And that's all about ivy. And so for you right now, the idea of building or buying a new home is pretty central in your thoughts right now. And you are incredibly resourceful. And when you go for something, you generally tend to get it. But ivy often suggests to you what is the cost of that. And I don't mean financial cost of that. I mean bigger picture cost of that in terms of the stability of your family and so forth. We'll pick up here with these four here. These are about the next 12 months or so, and I'll go through each of them briefly, and then I'll kind of tie it together for you. Fantastic to see this here. This is Bethel Birch, and this is about new beginnings. It's about new phases of life. It's about entering new chapters of life. But what's really interesting is that it's upside down in this reading. So it kind of talks about that some of the things that you want to happen in the next 12 months are not going to happen. Here we have willow or sail. Beautiful, a lovely stave which talks about your intuition, your gut instinct, your wisdom, about your femininity, about you being flexible. But again, this is the wrong way round. And so some people will see you over the next 12 months as being quite stubborn and being quite staid in your ways and not prepared to compromise. And again, I'll pick up on all of this shortly. This one underneath coal or hazel, I'm so pleased to see here. And what's really fascinating is that, I'll just take this one away, these two very rarely come together as they have for you here. And what it tells me is that you have incredible gifts, psychic gifts if you like, and amazing ability intuitively. Your gut instinct is really good. You have the capacity to see spirit and to talk with spirit, but you're not using it as best as you can. In fact, you need to, you haven't taken an awful lot of notice of it at all. And I really encourage you to learn how to utilize that a little bit more. You tend to be a little bit blind on occasions to messages that come through to you. Again, I'll pick up on that in a wee while. Pine or allium here talks very much, it kind of underpins the next 12 months for you, and it's about planning. Now, I know that you think you've got the next 12 months kind of loosely planned out in terms of the house in particular. The job situation is not planned at all, because that's very much dependent on the decisions of other people. And kids and money and travel, those other questions that you asked me about, are not planned as such. They're not. You haven't got a plan for the next 12 months. You've got this loose set of ideas that you really kind of like, but none of it's actually planned out. And that's going to be really important for you in the next 12 months or so. So, what do we have? We have the potential for you for sadness. If you go blindly into decisions without thinking about all of your options. So for you, it's very much about sitting down with your partner, doing this together, and writing out. I want you to get a pen And I want both of you to get some paper, and I actually want you to start writing. I want you to start writing down things like, what do you want in terms of where you live? What do you want for both of you, for each of you, in terms of job? What do you want in terms of family? What do you want in terms of health? What do you want in terms of finances? What do you want in terms of spirituality? What do you want in terms of community and social networking? So I really want you to write down together what it is that you want, because that hasn't been happening. Your partner has an idea of what he wants, and you have an idea of what you want, but none of those are really coming together, and there's this, clashing of the wills, if you like. Both of you have some fantastic ideas, but you're talking at each other and you're not talking with each other. And what we can see in these Ogham staves here is, if you continue to talk at each other, it's a bit of a downward slide for you over the next couple of years. I don't see a separation in the next 12 months at all, so I don't want you to get too worried about that, but I do see a downward slide if you don't learn to communicate with each other instead of at each other. There is no building of a house inside, or buying a new house inside the next 12 months. I know for you that is something that is dear to your heart and is something that you really want, but you both need to sit down with the budget, with that list of what you want that I talked about before, and I need for both of you to be realistic. If you do go towards looking for a new house and building a new house, Beth and all of these here talk very loudly, this is yelling at me, that the cost of that could potentially be your relationship, and therefore the family stability that for you is really important, that we can see here. Now is not the right time to go looking for a new house. In 18 months' time, yes, but not inside the next 12 months. So I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but that's coming through very loudly here. In terms of your more kids, now is not the right time again. They're saying inside the next 12 months there will not be any more children, and that it's really important that you work on the relationship with that communication. They're telling me again, with the communication, and that you don't share ideas with each other anymore. You yell ideas at each other. Will there be more travel as a family? Not inside the next 12 months. I don't see that as a family inside the next 12 months. I do see some travel for your partner, but that's more to do with work than I guess as a family leisure activity. You asked me about work, and I'm having real trouble getting messages about work, but what they are saying to me is that there will be status quo for quite some time. In other words, there's going to be no decisions made beneficial to you inside the next 6 months or so. Very much status quo, and you're just going to have to cop it, I guess, for the want of a better phrase, over the next 6 months. And that's going to put additional strain on your relationship. That's going, because you're not able to plan in terms of what will happen with your job. You are able to plan in terms of what will happen with all of the other stuff, but not in terms of that inside the next 6 months, and that will have an impact on your relationship. So again, it's really important that you do that communication and that talking. That means you being vulnerable, and you hate feeling vulnerable, and this injury at work has made you feel very physically and emotionally vulnerable, and you hate that. But it's really important that you open up about that and talk about that with your partner. He is feeling very burdened. He is feeling very, very cornered. He is feeling very, very pressured at the moment. As are you. You both are, but you're not opening up and talking. So the staves are very full-on centered about your relationship, because for you that, I hear what they're saying. for you, your relationship is absolutely core and central to all of the other things that you asked me about. So your relationship with your partner is the core factor in terms of what would happen practically about where you live, about work, about whether you travel, about whether there's more kids, and all of that kind of stuff. That's absolutely core, and that's why they're telling me to really reinforce with you that the need for you to communicate. Now, when you do that, there's going to be mass tears. It's really important that you sit down with your partner and say, we've been yelling at each other, we've been talking at each other for the last few months. I love you dearly. I need for this to work, so I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling, and I would love for us to work together. Would you be happy to do that with me, please? When you begin that communication, that open communication, there will be tears, there will be frustrations, there will be anger, but keep working at it, both of you together, slowly, and there will be some more positive outcomes. Now, I wanted to talk to you about your Druid Animal Oracle card, which is Water Adder. Now, this is really quite interesting because Water Dragon, Draguosige, there's some fantastic stories around this, so I kind of encourage you to go onto Google and have a look at Sea Dragon and Water Dragon and look at some of the stories around that. He's quite reflective of water as a spiritual element, so this is a lot about feelings and emotions, and because of that feeling of vulnerability that you've had for the last few months or so, you're kind of closing yourself off as a protective measure, understandably so. But closing yourself off and not expressing those feelings in a productive way can end up being quite destructive, I guess. So Water Dragon suggests to you that you need to speak about them, you need to open up about them, and in so doing, that does place you in a really vulnerable position, and it does bring tears to the surface. But if you keep capping it and not allowing it to surface, it's just going to bubble up underneath until it explodes. So Water Dragon is very much about being open and honest and facing the tears and the frustration that comes as a result of that. Water Dragon also is about looking at those painful memories and working through them rather than just burying them. So he's very much about the communication with your partner and about being vulnerable and experiencing the feelings so that you can then let them go and move on. So I'm hoping that's going to be a little bit of help for you. I just wanted to also talk about your birth tree again. I think I've given you this information before, but your birth tree is Alder or Fian. And it talks about you being very brave and being very energetic and determined. Remember, we talked about before how passionate you are about things. And older people are very much like that. Alder is used because of its strength to make bridges and buildings. And a bridge is reflective of communication. Again, it is up to you to begin the positive communication with your partner. And older people always do really well because they go after those things that they really want, as you do. Affectionate, and they're really great leaders as well. So I'm really hoping that I know that it hasn't come up with the answers that you would really like it to have done, and part of the Ogham reading is about confirming what you already know, but delivering the messages that you need to hear, not necessarily the messages that you want to hear. So I'm hoping that kind of helps you prepare and make the decisions to have a positive 12 months that may not necessarily give you all of the material outcomes that you want, but they help you to stabilise your relationship instead.